I started my career in a very different space. I actually went to engineering college and then worked in technology, as most other Indians do. After that, I ran my own company for several years and then joined an edutech firm. Personal front, I have a son in college who is an avid investor, and I have a daughter in high school who is an avid spender. You know? I find a lot of joy in my work, in the career that I have now chosen to be in, and also in fostering cats. Today, I'm here to share my experience, my learnings from the journey I've had till now. For the first 20 years of my career, me and my husband worked with a financial advisor. He was a great guy, and he met us often. He would discuss economic outlook, our investment portfolios. I joined my husband in some of those meetings, but I felt lost. I sat there for the heck of it, not understanding much, not saying much. I didn't want to ask questions. I didn't want to embarrass myself. Let me take a quick pause. We have a nice small room where we can make it a little more interactive, and I just wanted to pause and ask you guys all, would you raise your hands if you work with a financial advisor? And I have another. Oh, that makes two of you. That's you and Stacy too, yes. And then for any reasons, the one who do work with financial advisor, for the reasons like I had, do you ever not felt comfortable asking questions? It seems like we are not the only ones here. In fact, data tells me that 85% of the women, for feeling not confident or not comfortable, let their husbands make long-term financial decisions for their households. And that, my friend, is a staggering number. Let's, for a second pause here and ask ourselves, how come we women, we are more outspoken, more educated, more confident? Then how are we leaving these major decisions to someone else? And why are we not taking more control of our finances and by default our future? And by doing that, are we somehow perpetuating the status quo to our own daughters? So let's take an approach on how do we fix this, right? I have created a simple 4L framework to financial well-being for every stage of life. Starting with the framework here, the first corner is planning for liquidity. So what is liquidity? Liquidity is simply the ability to turn your assets into cash. Think of this as your cash flow needs for the next 3 to 6 months of your life in case you lose your source of income. When you're thinking about your cash flow needs, don't forget we are also a sandwich generation. We are taking care of our children and we are taking care of our parents. So maybe you want to also plan care for custodial nurse or care that they might need, in your emergency funds. So once you have counted all your funds that you need, what do? So this liquidity planning is about investing the amount of dollars that you think your household might need into low-risk investments. So think CDs, think treasuries, think high-yield savings account, So the idea is to be able to access these emergency funds very quickly, not have these dollars in high-risk investments, because you just don't know what surprises life is bringing to you. Now, the second pillar of this 4L framework is lifetime planning. So lifetime planning, as it implies, is simply the planning for all the years ahead of you. Okay? Let's all ask ourselves, let's think of a number. How long do you think you will live? Once you all have a number, add 5 or 10 years to it. Because there was a survey by Society of Actuary that said that humans, who mostly have a tendency to overestimate everything, don't we think we are smarter and nicer than we might be? But when it comes to our lifespan, we tend to underestimate. I thought to myself, how long will I live? I thought 75. But SSA.gov has a resource where you can put in some information and it tells you your average life expectancy, and surprisingly, it was 85. In fact, I read the other day that the person who will live to age 1,000 is already born. and that had my head spinning. Anyway, so now that we have established we are living longer, we are living way longer than we used to, we know that some of that life we will live alone. And how much? It might surprise you that 8 in 10 of us, so 80% of us, will be the sole financial decision maker of our household for 2 decades or more. And there are 2 reasons for that. We all know that men are hitting the finish line, so a man cannot be a plan. And rising rates of divorce. Have you heard of the term gray divorce? It's apparently the highest rising trend right now, which is divorcing in your 50s and 60s when your hair is turning gray, which is happening way before to me. I don't know why. So now coming back to lifetime planning. So imagine the next 30 to 40 years ahead of you. Okay? What planning do you need to put in place? Financial planning for me always begins with your goals. Okay? So what brings you purpose? What brings you meaning? What brings you joy? Okay? And these goals will become the driving force behind your financial plan. So if you are in your 30s and 40s, it's somewhat simpler. We work, we save, right? And save as much as you can. Do not leave those 401ks, the employer matches on the table. Maximize all of that, okay? And if you're in your 50s and 60s, it is imperative that you're having conversations with your financial advisor about your goals. You are asking questions like, how much assets do I have to live on? How much assets do I need to maintain your current lifestyle or a different lifestyle for the rest of your life? And what are the gaps between these 2 things? Okay? You should also be talking to him about your risks. Think about risks in life, which the insurance covers mostly, and also risks in your investment portfolio. Okay? Also, think about healthcare cost needs. When you retire, the early retirement years might not have a large healthcare implication, but the later years, again, the same thing with the custodial care, the nursing cares, the cost associated with a long lifespan and the later years of retirement are significantly higher. And finally, I believe taxes, oh God, the most boring topic that we can ever talk about. But when it comes to retirement time, you are drawing from your savings. You are, at that time, and somewhat debate even now, tax efficiencies or tax optimization is a very critical discussion to have. We have tools as financial advisors where we can decide between which accounts you are drawing from, when you should be drawing your Social Security, and it creates a lot more optimization of your portfolios. So my friends, as you see, lifetime planning requires a deep dive into financial planning. Interestingly, 10,000 people were asked, what are your dreams for reaching 100? You'll be surprised with the answers. Most common responses were, I hope I don't run out of money. I hope I leave some for my grandchildren. Okay. So a solid financial plan can put some of these fears to rest, and what emerges, I hope so, is a vision of possibilities. Moving on to my favorite and the third pillar of our framework, and that is legacy planning. I feel passionate about this topic because a few years ago, I lost my dad. He died too young, he died suddenly, and he died intestate, which is when somebody dies without a will. It threw our family in an emotional and financial turmoil. Since then, I've been wanting to talk more about this topic, but my daughter tells me it makes me very unpopular at the cocktail parties. But guys, we don't get pregnant talking about sex, so we don't die talking about death. So what do you need? 3 things you need to put an estate plan in place. My estate planning teacher, I remember she used to say, if you don't have an estate plan, the state has one for you. Okay. So let's create our power of attorney. The way I see my life going forward, I feel like I have 2 options. First, I'm incapacitated and I die. Second, I die. So the power of attorneys basically put somebody I love and trust to be authorized to execute decisions around my finances, my health, and take care of business. Secondly, moving on to the wills. Stating the obvious here, guys, it's a document that provides direction with respect to disposition of your assets. Any guesses on how old was the oldest will found? It's apparently 4,000 years old. And like everything that's 4,000 years old, it comes from Egypt, And what shocked me even more was, yes, the will was surprisingly very modern. And even in spite of the fact that the tradition of writing will comes from 2500 BC, only 30% of us have an executed estate plan. Together, I think we should change that stat. Let's create our power of attorneys. Let's execute a will and establish a trust. And now you're probably thinking, okay, what is a trust? And why do I need it? I thought only the ultra rich and ultra high net worth people require a trust. Not really. Okay. The way I think about a trust is think of a trust as a suitcase. Okay, so it's my suitcase that holds my belongings. For example, it will hold my bank accounts, my brokerage accounts, my retirement funds, even my real estate that I hold. All of that is packed in my suitcase. Why? Because if something were to happen to me, this suitcase created has a plan of how those assets will be distributed. Okay? My suitcase, for example, has 2 equal packing cubes, and each of those packing cubes will go to my children. Okay? Your suitcase could have more than that. It could have another cube for maybe charity. But at this time, if you're thinking, wait, wouldn't the will do that? Can't I say in my will, hey, distribute my assets equally to charity, children, grandchildren? Yes, you can. But then why do I need a trust? Because 2 reasons. Number 1, the will still goes to probate court. If you hold assets more than $100,000, your will be probated. Okay? Probate means time, probate means expense. Okay. Number 2, a will distribute assets to minors. You might say, hey, distribute my assets equally to grandchildren. A grandchild might be 10-year-old who suddenly becomes very wealthy. I wonder if that would be part of your values and your beliefs, right? So a trust can put guardrails, that will control the flow of these assets. I can say, hey, give it to my children when they are 30. I can say, hey, to my grandchildren, give this money at their wedding, at their graduation. So these are some guardrails that I can put in place. So just like mine, the distribution of your trust is controlled by your instructions and by your values. Okay? Our estate plan directs our financial assets, but our legacy plan is our story, our journey, our successes, and our struggles. And there are many ways to have your estate plan reflect your legacy. It's a topic for, beyond a discussion that requires more time than today, but maybe we can all find each other during dinner and talk about your own unique legacies that your estate plan should reflect. Yeah. So why all this talk about estate planning? I feel like estate planning is more relevant today than it has ever been. And the reason for that is we are living through, or we are the recipient of the largest wealth transfer ever happened in the human history. In the next 2 decades, $84 trillion of wealth will be passed down to all of us. 70% of that is actually coming to women. So somehow we owe it to ourselves and to the society to be cognizant of this legacy that we will be beneficiaries of. And finally, my friends, after our 3 pillars of liquidity, which is planning for your short-term financial needs, lifetime, which is planning for the life ahead of you, legacy, which is planning for life and beyond, I'm coming to our final pillar of leaning in. Lean in to be financially confident. My lean in moment came when my husband, looks like I have a lot of stories to tell you, all of them happen to be sob stories, but so my husband got diagnosed with a critical illness, okay? Within hours, he was scheduled to undergo a major surgery. No. That night, rather than us sitting and talking about life and outcomes and possibly fears, he sat me down to show me our spreadsheet. He showed me all our assets and told me a plan and told me what to do in case he does not make it out alive. Okay. I was lucky on two accounts. I think we both were lucky. We were blessed that he had the opportunity to do that. Some of us might not. And also, he came out of surgery. He's happy, he's healthy, he's thriving. So my friends, lean in to be financially aware. Know where your money is. Know what you need to spend every month or every year. Know where your 401ks are invested. Listen to financial podcasts. I like listening to Planet Money if you'd like a recommendation, or read the Wall Street Journal. Know that the world around you is changing and it is also impacting your financial picture. My firm, Savant Wealth, they have done a fantastic job in creating webinars and videos and resources and articles for people like you and me who were not in the financial space and would like to acquire the financial knowledge or the financial lingo. I sometimes step back into my old shoes and I write articles which are easy and simple to understand. I just wrote about college savings plan and how some of the tax laws have made it a little more attractive now. And talking about college and our children, let's lean in to talk to them about finances, make them more aware of where the money is, how it should be invested, how you should be saving, One fun idea I have for all of you guys to do during the holiday break is, have you ever used an investment simulator? Now, it's a really fun, cool activity. I got interested in investing using a simulator. So you could go, there is one at yahoo.com, and they give you this $100,000 of, sadly, fake currency, and you can invest in stocks. So you create your own portfolio of stocks, and it tracks to a real index. So the stocks are behaving as if they were real money. And all of you can create your own portfolios and then compete and see whose stocks are doing better than each other's. So it's something to do during the holidays. So let's talk to our friends, our family, our parents, everybody. Let's talk about money, about stocks, about investing. Channel your inner Barbie. I took that from the morning talk. Let's channelize our inner Barbie, because only confident people can ask what they don't know. No. Life's journey is long and it'll be full of decisions that you will make. Lean into an advisor who will present these decisions to you with unbiased perspective and analysis. They have the required tool sets that you might sometimes need to help you make those complex financial decisions. No. So I want to close the talk today. I've been talking nonstop, it feels like. I want to close this talk by sharing one statistic with you. By end of this decade, we as women will control 65% of the entire wealth of this nation. We as women will drive investment trends around risk, resilience, education, legacy, and it's time for us to lean in to being more financially confident and competent. Thank you. I don't know if we have time, but I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. But I've lost the count of time. Stacy, thank you.
Yeah, so what's one thing we should start doing, say, tomorrow to put our finances in order?
That's a good one. Tactically, I would say, so it's kind of the 4 L's, but then let's prioritize them a little differently. The first thing I would do is being financially aware. So I'll go to the last L, which is leaning in. Lean in to be financially aware. Know everything about your finances. Now, if you tell me, hey, I already know all that. I know my stuff, I know everything. So let's move on, okay? Second thing you should be doing is creating an emergency fund, okay? So put 3 to 6 months of assets away, invest them in something that's low risk, so you have a little cushion safety net there, okay? If you think both those things are taken care of, let's go on to our third pillar of lifetime. that is where I do think there is a financial advisor who you might need to sit down with to understand the full financial picture and how and what you need for the rest of your life. Finally, if I wish I could say that first because it's so important is your legacy planning. It is your estate plan. So take these things in any order you can, but please put all of them in place to create a financial well-being scenario for yourself. Thank you.
What's your view of crypto?
Yeah, I know.
I have no idea. But
Yes, yes.
too many experts. I mean, I know you're not supposed to invest in things you don't understand. Therefore, I'm not in it. But I'm just wondering, the future is of digital currency,
Yes.
and it seems like it's something that will come at some point to be more mainstream than it is.
Definitely, definitely. I do think, so I personally don't invest in crypto, right? And one of the reasons for that is because I don't understand the landscape. I don't think it's regulated. The regulations are coming in place now. So I personally don't invest. Having said that, my husband, my son, they are very avid crypto investors, right? So we have that debate in our house all the time, okay? Yes. So the one thing I would say is I do think there is a place for crypto in your portfolio if you think that is something that is of interest to you. Having said that, like any other portfolio, balancing is the number one key, right? So asset allocation, which in simple terms means you have all kinds of asset, right? So not put all the eggs in the basket, make sure you're in stocks, you're in bonds, you're in high yield savings accounts, you're in alternate investments, right? And a lot of this advice is very individualized and customized. So I'm broadly speaking here, if you are balancing your digital assets with other assets, I feel like you're still in a safe portfolio.
My husband and I invest in our 529 college plan for our children.
Yes.
And lately we've lost money. The value of it has gone down. Do you suggest continuing to invest in the 529 or they're 8 and 9, so there's a lot of time before
That's
college.
perfect. Yes, yes. Exactly. So that is the beauty of 529 investment. The good beauty of yours is that you have the time horizon that you need. The two things I'll suggest here is first is look at the investment choices that your 529 plan offers. You can also, based on the state, so Illinois gives you some state credit, so it makes it a little more lucrative for us to stay in state 529 plans. Having said that, you can go out of state if your state doesn't give you any tax credit or you want to go over the limits of investing in your tax credits in your 529. So look at your investment choices. And number two, I do think 529s, especially with the recent tax changes, where we used to worry, oh God, I used to think, what if my child wouldn't go to college? And thank God he is in college. Studying or not is another question, but yes. But recent changes to 529 accounts where you can roll money into our IRA, which is your retirement fund, has taken the worry about excessive funding. So you can start to put a little more money in your 529s. And lo and behold, if the kids don't end up going to college, there is a way to roll the money out without incurring the penalties that it used to incur. Yes.
They're 6
Yes.
and 8, I don't even know which one.
What's your advice to a 30-year-old who has a significant college loan?
Oh, so when it comes to debt, okay, it's about assessing how much you're borrowing at what percentage, right? If it's a high interest loan, the first thing we'll tell you is before you start investing, before you start saving, have an emergency fund and take care of the high interest debt, okay? If it's a low interest debt, then you're actually, we call it an arbitrage. Arbitrage is where you're using low interest funds to get you high interest yields, right? So it's about assessing your personal situation. But my first thing here would be, take care of the debt or have a plan to be taken so that the debt is taken care of first. You can emerge more financially on top of your plan. Yes.
My grandfather just passed away just shy of his 100th birthday. My grandmother is 98, and I've seen my parents now they retired in their 60s. So my parents have essentially supported their parents for 35, 40 years.
That is right. And the one thing that's coming to my mind is I was trying to remember the word for it, but there is, God, there's an annuity,
Yes,
okay?
there's long-term insurance, there's
Yeah,
actually
long-term insurance tends to be very expensive, though. Long-term
No,
care insurance.
but long-term insurance changed from years ago. You could, if your
Yes.
parents have excess cash that's sitting there that they don't need, they can actually buy a policy, especially because they're in their sixties, you said,
Yes.
which is gonna give them a lot more coverage. I'll just give you an example, and this is just a number. Let's say they have 250,000 that they could spare. It might give them a coverage of 400 some thousand dollars in long-term care joint for your father-in-law. And let's say a couple of years from now, they change their mind, they want their money, they actually get every dollar back. And let's say they die before they use that long-term care, it has a death benefit for the principal that you put in, and plus excess a little bit, and it's tax-free. It's not even part of their estate. So right now, long-term care is like highly recommended because of the cost of,
Yes.
elder care. Because it really does drain the principal of people's.
Yes. And to add to that, if they use their IRAs and they buy those long-term care annuities, it is a tax-free, rollover from the IRA to the annuity accounts. Yes,
To purchase the long-term care
Yeah, you
insurance.
can do that
exactly.
as well.
But no, it's not a long-term care insurance. It's a long-term care annuity. So it gives you a fixed income every month with a purchase of, say, 150, 200,000, one-time purchase. You create a fixed income for the rest of your lifespan. It's highly recommended for people who have a long lifespan, so who have that longevity in their families.
I mean, thank God. I'm so grateful we have them. I didn't mean that to be like totally financial, but it's just.
No, but it's good
Is
to
that
do it so
cost
that
of living
when-
adjusted, or is that a specific?
No, most of the times annuities. If it is cost of living adjusted, it would be additional rider, which makes it more expensive. But most of the times annuities kind of stay at a state rate.
There's so many options, but it
Yes.
depends if you want to add it.
I'm just saying, like
Yes.
$10,000 a month. Now use $10,000 a month.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a lot
Yes.
better